Hello viewers, good afternoon. I'm Ron Grant and you're watching 284 Media out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands. A special good afternoon to all of our viewers, but especially those from across the region. Thanks for tuning in. As the territory of the Virgin Islands continues to maneuver through the global pandemic, that is COVID-19, and of course with hopes of moving forward and learning to live with this pandemic, residents, business owners, and the likes continue to look on and seek clarity as leaders continue to make a number of decisions. Now, over the past week, we've heard of a number of recent announcements, such as the Premier's signing of the beneficial ownership registers, Premier's recent letter to the UK, of course the ongoing battle of our borders, and of course the long-awaited announcement on the reopening of the BVI borders come December 1st, 2020. We are joined by Leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition and District 8 Representative, the Honourable Marlon A. Penn, to get his take on the recent happening. It's the state of the territory from an opposition's perspective. Stick with us. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 Media.
The win! Oh!
What are the hell?
I'm freaking out!
Is time.
284 Music.
Coming to you live and direct from the beautiful British Virgin Islands.
What's poppin', what's really good, what's happening, what's up?
Davis has won it for the Lakers!
Viewers, welcome back. I'm Ron Grant. You're watching 284 Media. Honorable Member for the 8th and Leader of the Opposition, Marlon Penn. A pleasant good afternoon, and thank you so much for taking the time once again to speak with us.
Thank you, Ron. It's always a pleasure to come on 284 and talk to the people of the Virgin Islands.
So let's get right into the meat of the matter. Quite a bit has been taking place over the territory. A lot of decisions have been made as it pertains to the territory. Let's start by talking about the signing of the beneficial ownership registers. Now, in years gone by, the territory has seemingly decided that we would not do this until it is a global standard. We would all remember one of the most historic marches in the territory where residents and leaders marched and took to the streets in defending and really bringing awareness because we realized ultimately the level of importance that this would do and affect us. But we've seen where recently that has been done through the Minister of Finance and Leader of Government Business, the Honorable Andrew Foy. Explain to us, what exactly does this mean for the territory and what are your concerns?
Thank you, Ron. The beneficial ownership, as you rightfully said, is one of those major issues that has plagued our financial services industry for some time. And we've held firm on the position that we will not sign on until it becomes a global standard. To our surprise, we learned about this actual agreement or initiation with the Premier and the UK through a tweet, actually, from Baroness Swuggs, which went out on the airways, as well as Premier's made a statement in our House of Assembly. A situation or issue so important like beneficial ownership warranted a more in-depth discussion. The financial services industry has always been an industry where we never played politics with. It was always nonpartisan, where all sides of the political aisle come together in the issue, on this issue, and how we could protect, preserve, and expand the financial services industry. So it's very disturbing to find out about this through a tweet or through a statement in the House of Assembly. The Premier made some comments suggesting what it means. We know what it means. Our industry, more than any other industry in the OTs, have more to lose from signing on to the beneficial ownership. Whatever the decisions were behind the scenes, I think it was important for us to communicate clearly with the leaders of this territory, as well as the leaders of the industry, and as well as the people of the territory, because the people went out in March because they understood the industry and its impact on us in our daily lives. We've yet to get a clear position on what the UK has agreed to do as far as the beneficial ownership, how it will protect us from fishing expeditions and all the things that are happening when people just poking through our clients' private and public private information. These are things that are still of concern. We know that we have until 2023 based on the statement made by the Premier and Baroness Sugg. But we still, as a people, need a more comprehensive report from the Premier on this issue. It's an issue that needs to have dialogue on. We need to be clearer in terms of what have we committed to as a territory and the potential fallout, economic fallout that will come from us signing on to this industry, signing on to this beneficial ownership.
Speaking of economic fallout, are you concerned that this could ultimately be the end of the industry for the territory?
I won't be that pessimistic, Ron. I
Okay.
think the important thing is that we need to have dialogue on these issues. Financial services is too important of a subject for Premier or his 9-member team to unilaterally make these decisions without consultation with the people and the industry and the political leadership of this country, all 13 members, not just the 9 members on the government side. So I would say I'm sure that the professionals in the industry should have advised the Premier on it. We don't know enough information in terms of what level of advice went into the process, but we need to know. We need to be able to be on one accord with this industry because of its importance to our economy, even now considering what we're going through with COVID-19 and the already lower numbers that we see in financial services. We see about a 10 to 15% drop from last year to this year, the first 6 months of the year. We see that financial tourism has been shut down for the last 8 months, going on 8 months now. And we need to preserve all economic avenues at this very critical time of BVI's existence.
Recently, the Premier wrote a very unyielding letter to the UK. Of course, as it pertains to the ongoing battle for the borders, now the opposition has distanced themselves from the letter. But can you explain to us your thoughts on the tone of this letter and what it could mean for the territory?
It was very disturbing when we got, and we were actually copied on this letter, Ron, to the Overseas Territory Minister, not the governor, not just the governor's boss in the FCO, but the minister responsible for overseas territories.
Yes.
And the tone of that letter, it was very suggestive, it was very aggressive, a tone of very adversarial. At a time when we're talking about progressing to self-determination, all the different things that the Premier says on one hand, and then on the other hand, he says a different tone with the beneficial ownership. But we have to ensure that we disassociate ourselves from this type of behavior. At this time, as a territory, we need diplomacy. We're going through COVID-19. COVID-19 is a global pandemic, a global issue, and we need to be able to have global partners, not just regionally, but throughout the world in terms of us navigating the challenges and the potential fallout of COVID-19. And the Premier cannot just write letters and say it's on behalf of the government, the opposition, the legislature, and the people of the territory without a conversation with the people of this territory in terms of the things that he mentioned in that letter. And the tone of that letter was very disrespectful, derogative in nature, and not something that's is becoming of a leader of the Virgin Islands.
All right. The reopening of the borders come December 1st, 2020, of course, it has been a highly anticipated announcement as to when exactly. Now that that announcement has been made, we see where there haven't been quite exactly a bit of protocols exactly and clarity. One of the pieces of information that we were able to get our newsroom, which was the fact that a 4-day quarantine, subject to approval by cabinet, is up for essentially what will take place. What are your thoughts on this and its impact on the industry?
Well, as you know, the opposition has come out from inception talking about the importance of putting out protocols as relates to the health aspect of COVID-19, more so as relates to the economic aspect of COVID-19 and the reopening of the economy. May 27th, we put out a 16-page plan that detailed some of the suggestions that we made as relates to open up the economy and the protocols in which to do so. We also suggested a September opening. We're now at a stage right now where we're behind the 8 ball. The Premier is pushing at the last minute, which I think is very unfortunate now to start to have discussion with the stakeholders. One of the things that has been critical in any partnership going forward, the stakeholder has to be paramount in any discussion going forward in terms of the economy. We now hear that he's put out this 4-day suggestion, which is, again, irresponsible of the Premier to be leaking that information without a comprehensive plan coming out to the territory. I understand from many key players in the industry that many of their clients have canceled because it doesn't make sense for them to come to the BVI on a 7-day vacation and have to be quarantined for 4 days. Yeah. So it's obvious that this premature putting out of information, it pretty much stems to economic negligence on the Premier, and that we've come to this point now. We're still guessing And it goes back to what we continue to say, that this government has no plan for the economy going forward with COVID-19. We have to get this right. We have little time. We're talking about December 1 opening. Our customers yet to know what the protocols are. We've yet to finalize the stakeholder meetings that I understand they're being selective in terms of who are able to get into these meetings. Media personals are not welcome. It's just a real mess, Ron. It's unfortunate that we're at this stage, but it's still time because we have to try to salvage what we can of the 2021 season, get the stakeholders involved in a meaningful way, get the key persons on board with this process. There are a lot of key plans that came out from the marine industry, plans that came out from BVI Hotel and Commerce Association. I see they made a statement this week. We need to get those persons on board. We need not to reinvent the wheel. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel, to be in cabinet meetings all day trying to come up with a plan when there are already plans developed. Let's walk through those plans. Let's see how we could get this industry going again, because tourism is too important to our economy for us to lose the 2021 season. We're talking about over 60% of our economic activity in the territory. Most of the jobs in this territory are through tourism. And you're talking about persons who have been unemployed since January, some of them. So close to 7 to 8 months. We have to get this going. We cannot continue to be bumbling down the street. And it shows that the government has no plan, as we've been saying since May. And it shows the ineptness to manage the economic issues that we face as a territory.
All right. Now, recently, a group of business owners filed a petition requesting details for the reopening plan, as well as really calling for the stimulus package to be paid. The exact date that they gave the government was tomorrow, October 9th. Now, this was a very interesting move by the business community. Tell us about your thoughts, and are you in support, or what do you think about some of these suggestions made, and ultimately the aggression that you're now seeing coming from business owners?
I welcome this one. I think the business owners need to step up, and I'm happy that they stepped up to the plate because they're the ones who are feeling the pain. They've been carrying this economy for the last 7 to 8 months. They've employed many of their staff, continue to keep them employed at some level. They've continued to hold the strain, and they're at the point right now where they cannot do it anymore. They need to have a clear plan, need to have clear protocols in terms of how they should operate. And the pain is real, Ron. I mean, I was on your show a few months ago, and I expressed the need for the engagement of the stakeholders. And you see the stakeholders themselves are coming out and saying, look, we need engagement. We need these issues to be addressed. We need to have clear protocols for us moving forward so that we could continue to do what we do as business owners, as persons who drive economic activity in the territory. Small businesses are critical to the overall survival of any economy, and we have to listen to them. We have to hear their concerns. We have to ensure that they have a seat around the table and their concerns are being heard, because they employ most of the persons in this territory. A lot of those businesses are on the brink of failure or collapse because of bad policies of our administration. So we have to find a way to really sit down, listen to these persons, and find a way for us to move forward amicably. At the end of the day, we have to put our ego and our pride aside and do what's in the best interest of the Virgin Islands moving forward. We've made suggestions in our plan. We've continued to make suggestions through the House of Assembly, through our monthly press conferences. We've communicated clearly to them. We've talked to the business owners ourselves so we could get a sense of what the concerns they have, so that when we speak up from a position of strength, a position of fact, in terms of the concerns that the business owners are facing. So I commend them for stepping forward, for having the courage to step forward. I know it's not easy, for the fear of victimization for many of those businesses, but they have to do that. And I have to make this point, Ron. A lot of those businesses have been carrying the government, have been financing government's operation for months. Persons have been offering security service and haven't been paid for months. Other businesses have given goods and services and yet to be paid. We cannot continue to run the government on the backs of the small businesses of this territory. We have to listen to them, get the economy going so they could do what they do best, run businesses.
Speaking of businesses and the economy, the stimulus packages, 8 months into this pandemic, of course, we see where many business owners are still awaiting the stimulus packages that were promised. Now, recently, the Minister for Trade begged the general public for patience in the issuing of the checks. What are your thoughts on the fact that many business owners are still yet to receive that assistance?
Again, a failed process, Ron. What starts wrong can't end right. I mean, we're still here now trying to do the dog and pony show and distract the public again. with another photo op in terms of how many persons have gotten help, blah, blah, blah. But this has been a process that started from May, Ron. Many of those businesses have been holding on by a string, trying to keep their staff in place, trying to keep their office space, trying to keep things moving. To now to just parade them around in this dog and pony show, let's move on with the process. Let's get the protocols in place. Let's support the businesses in terms of their reopening. Let us get the monies that are designed to get to the people that needs it the most. Not just the stimulus for the businesses, but stimulus for the employees. Many employees have yet to get the stimulus that was agreed upon or promised through Social Security. It was meant for 3 months. We're now 6 to 7 months into this crisis, and they're yet to get that support. Let's get the support to the people that need it the most, and let's move on and get the economy going again. The economy is a critical component of this cog of COVID-19, and we've blundered the whole process of the economy, getting the economy moving again.
Now, there have been some growing concerns throughout the community by residents recently that civil servants who are over the age of 65 are being forced into retirement in some way to accommodate the present state of affairs and trying to sustain the territory. Now, recently, member for the 3rd, the Honorable Julian Fraser, he recently said that nurses who want to serve are allegedly not being able to serve because they are over the age of 65. Now, to your knowledge, is this true? Do you know or can you speak to persons and these claims that persons are somehow being forced to retire?
I can't speak to any specific, Ron, and if it is happening, I think it's a travesty. Specifically in the nursing field, there are persons who have a skill set that we need right now. Specifically going through a pandemic, you need the nurses, you need persons in the healthcare profession to really be at the front line to assist during this very difficult time. So if that is indeed happening, I am really concerned about that. We have to find a way to ensure that Viva is a small place. We have limited, limited expertise, and we need to have all the expertise that we have on deck right now to help us transition through this very difficult time as it is COVID-19. So I am not aware of any specific situation, but if it is happening, and I trust my colleague is well researched and he doesn't speak unless he has the facts, and that needs to stop, and we need to support our people to help them support the territory during this very difficult time.
Thank you so much. Bar owners, they have formed a Bar Owners Association. Of course, you would have been aware of this. Have you been in contact with the bar owners? Are you supporting this movement?
Yes, they have. They have reached out to me, Ron, and I support them. Any organization or any industry where they mobilize, they form their associations and work in the best interest of their industry. I think the bar owners have been dealt a bad hand. They've been accused for a lot of things, and I think it's unfair accusation on many fronts. And I believe that whatever protocols we put in place for the restaurants and bars should be in the same protocol should be in place for the bars, because they themselves have employees, they have a business to run, and just ensure that they have the necessary protocols in place and the safety measures so that they too can run their businesses. It's unfortunate that we had to wait this long to put those things in place. It shows again the lack of a plan and a strategy around for moving forward. I support them in terms of mobilizing. Now they have a more unified block to bring their concerns to the forefront to government opposition and anyone that has a position of authority, so that they could then have their cases heard. So I support them, and I want them, other industries as well, to mobilize in this fashion. I am happy to see how the business community in totality has mobilized, and now we need to have the sector mobilization so that businesses could have sort of the strength that they need going forward in terms of the issues that they face collectively, not just on an individual level.
We are still on a curfew. Thankfully, all businesses have now been allowed to reopen, but we are now still on a curfew. Do you believe that the territory should still be on a curfew with no active cases? What are your thoughts as it pertains to still being on a curfew?
I think first and foremost,
though it's been extended.
I think first and foremost we need to understand the purpose of the curfew. I think that has not been explained clearly to the people of this territory in terms of does it mean that the COVID-19 only spreads at certain hours, and we need to be mindful of that? Is there an issue with crime? We don't know, because the powers that be makes these decisions without proper communication and clarification, and we don't know the rationale behind the curfew. I think we should give businesses a fighting chance to survive in the economy, and the contracted hours made it very difficult for businesses to survive in a contracted economy, especially after they had to shut down more than once. It's difficult to get a business going again once it's been shut down. And that is going to be a challenge going into December 1 because we need to have some kind of capital to help businesses to get their inventory up and running, to get themselves back up and running after the various shutdowns. And the protocols that they have to implement because of the safety issues surrounding COVID-19, which I support. We need to have the safety issues addressed and all those matters addressed moving forward.
You were recently, believe it or not, while you were on your feet in the House of Assembly, you were called house slave by the leader of government business. Honorable member, I'm not sure if that's parliamentary language, but speak to that and sometimes the tension that come about in the House of Assembly, if you so wish.
I'll just briefly say that it was very disheartening to hear the Premier make those type of derogative comments towards myself. At the end of the day, we are leaders and we represent people. And it shows the duplicitous nature of our Premier and his contradictory tone. On one hand, he's on the radio talking about self-determination and effects of slavery and what slavery means to be Irelanders, and we need to be able to rise up and be self-determined. But he's making those derogative statements that are a painful reminder of slavery towards his colleague in our House of Assembly and members of this House as a leader of this country. It's unbecoming. It's something that I would never practice. I am a man, I've always been upright and forthright with my position. I respect the position that I hold as an elected member of the people of this territory. And not only now represent the people of the 8th District, but as a leader of opposition, I represent all the people of these Virgin Islands, from Antigua to Jasmine Dyke. And I will continue to represent them. I will not be deterred from my leadership and representation of the people. I would speak. I will not be intimidated in terms of speaking on the behalf of the people of this territory and their concerns and their cries. So it's unfortunate, but it is who we're dealing with. That's the nature. They say sometimes when our backs are against the wall, our true character comes out. And it's unfortunate that is what came up with the Premier's mouth on that very day.
All right. You were a part, and still are a part of the National Democratic Party. Recently, the Honorable Premier mentioned that there is a $30 million debt, which was brought about, he insinuated that it was brought about by your administration. This comment is coming just about 2 years into his tenure as leader of government business. Can you speak to that? Do you know of $30 million being absent with your administration?
Again, Ron, very, very duplicitous behavior from our Premier. The reality is that we're 2 years into his administration. We didn't hear about this at the beginning of his term. We didn't hear no specifics about what supposedly was owed. It's just a matter of distraction and distracting people from his inability and his team's inability to get the economy going, to do the things necessary to get businesses back up and running, to keep the economy moving. The engine of any country is its economy. And because of this government's failure, he wants to distract and blame someone else for his ineptness, his inability to get the economy going, Ron. And while I'm at that point, Ron, I mean, the December 1st opener, we are hearing snippets coming out that is only going to be beef island. What about our sister islands, Ron? We have to find a way to get our sister islands moving in terms of tourism. A lot of our people, our tourists and our guests come through the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have to find a way to ensure that the U.S. Virgin Islands is part of any plan in terms of getting persons back to the territory. Because we have a gateway in the U.S. Virgin Islands where it's much cheaper, one, and for particularly Jasmine Dyke and Virgin Gorda, Norman Island, and Antigua, many of the day trippers come through the U.S. Virgin Islands to support those economies.
Correct. So
we have to find a way to get the U.S. Virgin Islands side back on track. One of the things that we suggested was to have one of the seaports open. Preferably the only ones that's in any shape to do that is the Rotown Seaport, to be able to accommodate persons through that process. And we also have the luxury run of a desk office in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Correct.
So whatever protocols that we need to put in place, that we need to make sure that persons are ready, and when they come to the Virgin Islands, the BVI, it's done through our home office in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we also have the added support and security of the protocols that have been put in place by the U.S. Virgin Islands and persons who travel to the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we have an opportunity where we need to look at how we're going to get persons to really support the tourism rebound through the U.S. Virgin Islands as a gateway. And we need to do it in a more strategic way, because we have to ensure that we support our sister islands in this process. Because if St. Thomas is closed for any extended period, it means that persons on Jasmine Dyke, Norman Island, Virgin Gorda, they're going to feel the brunt of it in terms of their economic activity. Much of that money on spent on White Bay is through the trippers, is through the marine sector, a marine sector that now is going back to the U.S. Virgin Islands because of our inability to get our act together. So I'm very concerned about that aspect of our economy, our tourism economy. We have to find a way to get that aspect up and running.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much again for coming. Before we close, you have relocated your District 8 office, and you're going to be having a reopening on Monday. Can you speak to that in closing? Of course, I'll give you an opportunity to greet your constituents of the 8th District.
Yes, Ron. Thank you for that. I want to again say a pleasant good afternoon to the people of the 8th District, the people who sent me to the Honorable House, represent their interests. But as a leader opposition, I also want to say a pleasant good afternoon to all the people of the Virgin Islands for your calls, for your concerns, and bringing your issues to me. So from Antigua to Jasmine Dyke, as I continue to work on behalf of all the people of the Virgin Islands, I'm reopening my district office in Long James Young, in Long and Harborview area. And we're going to have a grand opening on Monday. We're going to have scheduled district meetings, scheduled meetings with some of the public by appointment. And we also in the process of starting our Sister Island meetings, where the first one is going to be in Virgin Gorda next Wednesday. We're going to have our meetings by appointment on the Sister Island of Virgin Gorda. Then we're going to extend to Antigua and Jasmine Dyke with the District 2 representative. And then just to engage the people on the ground, try to hear directly from them their concerns, their ideas in terms of moving forward, how we can move this territory forward as it relates to the economic pain that many of them are feeling. As I said, the Sister Islands are the most heavily hit aspects of our economy now. They depend heavily on tourism. And it's trickling down to all the other areas. I'm hearing now that the construction industry has slowed down on the Sister Islands, where we've seen a lot of the crews are cut back on crews, and persons are losing their job because of the uncertainty with the actual tourism sector. So we need to figure out how we can get the ideas infused into the decision-making process. So we're going to engage the persons on the Sister Islands from Antigua to Jasmine Dyke, and those meetings will start from Wednesday next week in Virgin Gorda. And my district office will be open on Monday for persons to come, to fill their forms, to have a discussion with myself, and have support from our support staff at the office.
Wonderful. Again, thank you so much for your time and attention this afternoon. Viewers, that's all the time we have, but of course, that is not all the content. Make sure to visit our website for more information, as well as join myself and my colleague, Jovan Wilson, at 6 p.m. This evening as we bring you the recap for today's happening. Some of the stories that we're going to be covering this evening are the VG loss. They have lost another stalwart educator. Speaker to the governor, we are equals. In addition to that, the new curfew order as businesses can now reopen in. And of course, some bills have still not been assented to by the governor. Quite a bit to get into this evening, so make sure you tune in for that. I'm Ron Grant. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.